Welcome to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers with Linda Prio. Will it be possible to remain in my home as I age? Do I feel safe in my home? How do I figure out how much support I will need when my health needs start to change? What if I decide to move into a community instead? Which community will meet my needs now and in the future? Who will play a role in helping me with decision making? Do you ask yourself these same questions? Aging in Place Strategies and Answers can help you gain practical knowledge that will help you create your own Aging in Place roadmap. If you are already a care partner, a power of attorney, or in crisis mode with your Aging in Place strategy, you will learn what you need to know that you don't know. For over 20 years, I have been marketing Aging in Place services to clients and educating families and healthcare professionals in how to put aging in place strategies into place. When you utilize aging in place, you are allowed to choose where you want to live and make those decisions so that you can retain your quality of life. Thank you for joining me on Aging in Place Strategies and Answers. Now, before we start part 2 of Living Well with Parkinson's, I want to recap what we were talking about in episode 1. Karen Frank, my guest, is an ambassador with the Davis Phinney Foundation. And Davis Phinney was a cyclist who has won so many victories that no one has been able to surpass him. The Davis Phinney Foundation, named after him, focuses on how to live well with Parkinson's and is able to give away a manual called Every Victory Counts, which is a complete guide regarding Parkinson's, and it is already in its 6th edition. And in addition to Every Victory Counts, they are able to offer a complete caregiver companion guide. Now, in addition to education, the Davis Phinney Foundation has ambassadors like Karen Frank that have Parkinson's disease, but also specialize in a particular area so that when you need to talk to someone in real time about Parkinson's and how to deal with a certain issue that is uppermost in your mind, you can connect easily with someone. All you have to do is go to the davisfinneyfoundation.org, and that's Davis, D-A-V-I-S, Phinney, P-H-I-N-N-E-Y, foundation.org, and you're going to be able to connect easily with an ambassador or be able to join Connie Carpenter Phinney's caregiver meetup group that only caregivers for those who have Parkinson's can join. You're not going to want to miss out on anything that this foundation has for those that want to live well with Parkinson's. So let's listen to the rest of the interview. When we joined this interview, Karen has already started describing the amount of resources that are available on the Davis Phinney Foundation website.
We have a blog, which is written material. We have webinars, which are actually subject areas. We go into depth, bring guests onto the program. These are all recorded and available afterwards.
Wonderful.
And we have podcasts just like this. We have about 54 podcast episodes to date, and they just started a new podcast. It's called originally the Parkinson's Podcast, but the new podcast is Parkinson's Podcast Unfiltered.
Okay, great.
A blast. It's hilarious, but it's also talking about the serious issues. But we talk about things like dignity. I found this challenging. traveling with Parkinson's, for example, it's very hard to ride on an airplane when you feel like you have to pee every 5 minutes because a lot of us have urinary dysfunction with Parkinson's.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we may joke about it a little bit and we try to keep humorous, but the truth is, if you like to travel, you still like to travel, whether you have a urinary problem or Parkinson's or not.
Right, right. And I think that's what is so helpful to people. I think also on the website, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can connect, there's an ambassador tab too. And
Yeah,
that
so
would,
you
yeah.
can search for an ambassador. So, what is an ambassador? An ambassador is somebody that I each of our ambassadors are have like a joy or a passion for something, and so you can connect with someone geographically, and there's a search program on there. Let's say you just want to find an ambassador in St. Louis. If you
Hmm.
search for that way, you'll find me. Let's say you want to find an ambassador that is interested in a topic you're interested in, or you want a care partner ambassador. There's options when you go to the webpage,
Yes.
find an ambassador. You actually can search by all kinds of things. So, one thing that's unique, for example, I'll share something personal about myself. I happen to be sober. I'm 54. I've been sober since I was 19. So,
Hmm.
sobriety and is really important to me. And the medications we take for Parkinson's, which are dopamine-based medications, are known to have some side effects with impulse control problems. People can become have problems with substance abuse. They can even become addicted to their levodopa and take more than they should. But I'm the only person in the country who actually is a resource for people with substance abuse issues. And this comes into play more than you would think. There are a lot of people in the United States may not have alcoholism, but they might use alcohol as a way to cope. And both the person living with Parkinson's and the caregiver. And this has been a problem. I received a phone call. We have a care partner meetup that's monthly, that's led by Connie Carpenter Finney, and it's online. It's a interactive group. They even have their own sort of landing page on the website that people with Parkinson's can't go to. It's just for the care partners.
Gotcha.
And a care partner was talking in this group about her husband who was homebound, who was drinking a lot. And it was contributing to increased cognitive decline, which he already had an issue with, and falls. And this was making it extremely challenging, not for just for him, but for her also. And someone at the foundation asked if they could contact me, and they said yes. And I was contacted to talk with the family about resources for alcoholism and addiction and managing these issues. And I shared a bit about myself and uh, referred this person to support in, let's say, Al Anon or AA, and how to do this from home, which is
Mhm.
actually important. Because if you can't go out and go to meetings, what do you do? And so I was able to share with them and help them. I don't know all the answers as an ambassador, but I know where to find them. And
Right.
that's important. And so this person was able to have a one-on-one interaction with myself. We have another quick example about an ambassador. We have a married couple. One woman is living with Parkinson's. She's a retired nurse midwife, actually, and her husband is a care partner. And they just they like to camp and travel, and they bought an Airstream, and they've been traveling around the country for 2 years in their Airstream, which is named Spud, which I think is funny. And they are traveling around and camping and moving around the country. And as her Parkinson's has progressed, it's changed the way that they've been able to do that. But you know, this is something about camping and Parkinson's. We deal with that. Ping pong and Parkinson's, dance and Parkinson's, drumming and Parkinson's. These are for our creative people. Other people don't have that interest, and we have an ambassador who's interested in nutrition. She's a retired dietitian. Now, this is not to get medical advice per se. She
Right.
gets her medical advice from medical people, but she is able to talk with someone about the importance of nutrition and anecdotal stories about people she's worked with, and just simple things. You already have lost brain cells to Parkinson's. Most people, by the time they develop motor symptoms, have lost 80% of the neurons in that part of the brain. And so avoiding pesticides, eating organic, for example, which can be expensive, but believe it or not, Walmart is less expensive and they have organic foods. It's really important because you don't want to lose more brain cells than you've already lost. And so, someone might not know the importance or might, sort of brush it off as not important, but we have an ambassador who can talk with you and say, well, let's say the solution is how do I eat organic? I live in a more rural area.
Right.
Well, we have solutions for that. So our ambassador program is very personal. So you might interact with me as a first layer because you search for someone in St. Louis. And as I
Right.
get to know you and your family, I will say, wow, we have an ambassador that's really into that. And let's
Yes.
introduce you. And so it's just a starting point. But some of the other Parkinson's organizations, which you might have heard their name more than us, they don't have that program. So a lot of the things we offer are an overlap with other organizations, but that's unique to us. So, use it. Um,
I
use it.
agree. I agree. There's nothing better than somebody who knows that your struggle and then can talk to you because they know your struggle and then share great, like you said, anecdotal information. And those of us, I consider myself a connector, and I think Karen is too. I like to connect people with the right people that can be influencer or a help or a sustainer to you. And I think that's, like Karen said before, that's called community. And that's what you guys are focused on. I love to, about this organization, the uniqueness of the reality of Parkinson's. There is no cure. We know this, but there is a way that you can celebrate daily victories and learn how to live well. And in my podcast, this is what I'm focused on too. So I can't thank you enough for being with me today, Karen. You kind of touched on it a little bit when you were talking about Connie Davis's wife and caregiver and their meetup group. So I always give people a caregiver tip. So you already heard those that were listening today that there's a meetup that you can do with a caregiver of someone who has Parkinson's, and that Parkinson's person is not allowed to attend because this allows us to speak frankly and honestly and to share what is really going on in that situation. But what tip would you offer to someone in this situation that's a care partner? Because you've done both. You have it. You have a care partner. You've been a care partner. You're still a care partner for your mom. So what would you give us today to be helpful?
We have a saying in the Parkinson's world that if you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person with Parkinson's because we all look very different.
Yes.
My challenges with my husband, for example, is I leave the garage door open. I will leave the stove on. I will forget a lot of plans that we had. Last night we were cooking dinner and he put the oven on and we were having baked potatoes. And guess who didn't put the baked potatoes in the oven? So that's hard for him. And we sat down to have the meal and he's like, where are the potatoes?
Oh,
I said, well, they're right
jeepers.
there on the counter. It sounds like a humorous little thing, and that is a little thing. We can live without potatoes, but this may sound cliche, but you have to put your own oxygen mask on first because there's a reason we say that. You can't help someone else if your tank's empty. And what does that mean for you? I'm an extrovert. I need to be around people. I happen because I value that. I started a support group for people with young onset Parkinson's, and we meet by Zoom. We some of us are working, and so we meet in the evening. But for a care partner, you have to think about what's important to you, and you have to continue to fill your life with that. I really will talk again about our ambassador program. Some people like to go to a support group. That may be difficult for them to physically leave their home because as Parkinson's advances, it's just hard to leave your loved one alone. And so that is, for example, a group that meets online. And once people go and they meet people by Zoom, they actually maybe get a phone number from a friend in the group, and now they have a one-on-one person they can interact with. But I think that don't let these things be a barrier. There are often solutions to issues that people don't think about, but we have resources for care partners. We have a lot of educational material. We do have an Every Victory Counts care partner manual. We have a care partner rule book. We have ambassadors who are care partners. And just as a starting point, start there. We have a YouTube channel which has 758 and counting videos on it. These are
Yes.
produced, polished pieces. Some of them are panel discussions of people just getting together and venting. We recently had a woman who I got to know. Her husband was 15 years older than she. Uh, he had a pretty virulent presentation of Parkinson's, which created a lot of autonomic dysfunction. He had trouble eating, responding to his needs about drinking, blood pressure regulation issues. Not everybody has those issues. It was very severe, and he had a really unfortunate, difficult decline, and it was very hard on her. He passed away actually on Christmas recently, and guess who was diagnosed with Parkinson's about a month after his passing? She was.
Unbelievable.
She was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and she came to the foundation overwhelmed, devastated. She read some bios and she connected with mine for some reason. And she reached out to me. We've become friends. Now she comes to my young onset Parkinson's group, but she's grappling with a lot of panic, uh, overwhelm, and she found a place there. And now she's found a cause. She's somebody that needs a cause. She needs something to do. And so she's
Right.
building a registry right now in the state of Wisconsin to determine who and where people with Parkinson's live, and maybe patterns of how they got it, so that we can understand why there's clusters of people with Parkinson's. To her, that was important. To someone else, maybe it's just having a break so they can get to the store to buy groceries.
Right.
So having an organization that has a lot of knowledge in common about what people deal with and connecting with that organization is important. And we have many wonderful Parkinson's organizations, but what I love about ours is it's accessible to anyone at all. And
Yes.
maybe you don't even want to have a one-on-one interaction, but if you just go to our YouTube channel and search Care Partners, you will be surprised about what will come up. Maybe it's just listening to a podcast like this that is going
Yes.
to provide you an answer to something.
And
But
I always, we are weaker when we feel like we're all alone. When you listen
yes,
to a podcast or you get a piece of information or you talk to an ambassador and they're like, oh, I've been there and done that. Now, all of a sudden, your heart's lifted, your soul's lifted, and you're thinking, I am not alone. There is somebody who understands what I am saying without having to go through it. And it is not a 5 or 10 minute doctor's appointment. It is something that is more rounded and can really nurture you in your role as a caregiver. Did you want to say one more thing, Karen, before we wrap this up?
yes. Across my Parkinson's brain. No, I was just going to say that for me, I'm social, and I felt very isolated after I didn't have a career and that kind of thing. And so I have put some effort into making friends with Parkinson's, and it's really helped my marriage, just as an example, because I used to go to my husband for everything, and he had to listen to it all day long. And no matter how kind or supportive you are, like, people need a break, right?
Yes.
And so now I have a community of people with Parkinson's. There's not a day that goes by that I don't talk with a friend with Parkinson's. And the same can be true for care partners. And that takes the burden off of your family, for example. Let's say you're talking to your kids all the time about it, and that's hard
Yes.
on them. To
Well,
have
and
just another place, a
to
person to talk to.
to go. And, everybody comes into that discussion from a different level, right? Your kids have their own perspective. This is their loved one. They're seeing the decline. The caregiver in the home, of course, sees that decline. They're the loved one that's going to be impacted most. And so we all come into that caregiving picture. And I loved what we were talking about offline. You guys didn't hear this, but Karen said, because we're so unique, uh, and you may not see yourself in a support group, but you might see yourself in that one-on-one situation, or you might see yourself being supported through a video or through a manual or through other things. So I can't thank you enough for being with us today and sharing this information in the show notes. Karen and listeners, I will have how to contact the Davis Finney organization, and then you know where those tabs are. We've hit the Every Victory Counts manual. We've also talked about the ambassador program and that all important caregiver meetup. So thanks again for being with us today, Karen, and thanks listeners for being good listeners and for supporting Aging in Place strategies and answers.
Thank you for having me.
Now a word from our sponsor.
Which would you rather spend per month, 4 to 6,000 and live in an assisted living community, or less than $60 a month and remain at home? The electronic caregiver is a safety device that can help you remain safe in your home in both medical and safety situations. Electronic caregiver can have many options that can be tailored to the needs of the individual, giving you peace of mind. Electronic caregiver is available nationwide. Let's talk. Cheryl Wilson, 314-283-0943.
Let's rejoin the podcast for some final tips on how to live well with Parkinson's. Living with any diagnosis is difficult, but here are a few things that I found in a self-help guide called Understanding Parkinson's Disease. And there are 4 categories, and in each category there is some guidance provided. First, develop a positive attitude despite your diagnosis. Your attitude affects your health because our minds and our bodies are connected. So having a positive attitude can work to improve your quality of life. You also want to add to your knowledge. As Karen Frank said, we should connect with every Parkinson's organization possible so that you can learn everything about Parkinson's disease, what it is, what causes its symptoms, treatment options, how to live well, and then to stay abreast of any new treatment options and latest research. You also want to create a great working relationship with your doctor. You want to ask about the medications being prescribed, what they're for, when to take them, how often to take them. Make a notebook so that you've got symptoms and side effects at your fingertips, easily remembered. And then keep a note for yourself about any of the side effects from a specific medication that was prescribed, so it will not be prescribed again. Learn how to speak up for yourself. And then begin doing things that make you feel better. These could be some self-help strategies such as reducing stress, adding appropriate exercise, and changing your diet. Maybe consulting or talking with another caregiver, perhaps even joining with a Davis Finney Foundation ambassador would be a great self-help strategy. But the goal is always to slow the disability from Parkinson's disease and to stay independent for as long as possible. Thanks again for joining me for part 2 of Living Well with Parkinson's. Thank you for joining me today. Please remember that this podcast is intended as guidance and not advice. Share this podcast with friends and family who are currently in crisis mode or with people who would like to start developing their own roadmap for aging in place. Listeners, if you would like a deeper dive into a topic discussed during a podcast, please subscribe to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers, where you will be able to access premium content. Or if you would like to suggest a topic for this podcast, please contact me at Linda amy.agingstrategies@gmail.com. As always, I value the time you spend with me.